الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. Respected brothers, these are very, very blessed days. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-Hajj ashhurun ma'lumat. Hajj are a recognized number of months. And we know as Muslims that as soon as Ramadan Mubarak finishes, those people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the tawfiq of performing Hajj, they start making preparations. They actually start making preparations before, but as soon as Ramadan ends, then the months of Hajj they start. And now, one of the greatest worships, one of the greatest ibadat is the Hajj. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentions in a hadith, Bunya al-Islam wa ala khams. The foundation of Islam is based on 5 pillars. And one of them, وَالْحَجُّ بَيْتِ اللَّهِ الْحَرَامِ, to perform Hajj towards the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But being so great, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows with how much passion, how much desire every Muslim, every single year, how much desire and wish he has to be given the opportunity to perform Hajj. And some people, Allah has written it for them, that they perform Hajj every single year. We hear in the books of history, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, he performed 55 Hajj. We hear about the Tabi'i, who is one of the narrators of Sunan Abi Dawud, the great hadith book, where the narrator says, I went to this Bedouin because he had heard a certain hadith from a Sahabi who had heard it from the Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So he said, I traveled, I went to this Bedouin, I asked him, can you narrate the hadith which you've heard from this Sahabi who has heard it from the Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? So he mentioned the hadith to him, that this is the hadith that I've heard. Then, because this person was really old, he was in his 80s, maybe 90s. So this person thought, that old, how do I know he's remembered it correctly? It's possible that over time he's forgotten it and he's mixed up the words or he's mixed up the hadith. So after some time, months later, maybe a year later, when he knew or he thought that the old man would have forgotten me, because numerous people used to come and visit him asking him to narrate this hadith. So he went to him and he said, Shaykh, can you I've heard you've heard a hadith from this Sahabi, can you narrate it? Because he came to me this day. You've come to test me. You've come to test me whether my memory is affected or not. He said, listen, I've performed 60 Hajj on different camels. You put those camels amongst thousands of camels, and I'll pick out the camel and the year I performed Hajj on that camel. But ask people who travel regularly, ask them, 3 years ago, you traveled to London or Lisbon, or what airline was it? I don't know. Could have been Lufthansa, could have been British Airways, could have been Virgin, could be anybody. Could be any. I like it, there's only a handful of airlines. But we forget. And plus camels, they're very similar. You see a camel, you see it in the evening. If it's amongst other camels, you never recognize it. But Allah had given these muhaddithin such an incredible memory. But Allah had given him the tawfiq of performing 60 Hajj. So the very, very fortunate, Allah has given them the opportunity of performing Hajj after Hajj after Hajj. One of my teachers recently who has just been here is Maulana Damat Barakatuhum. Since we were studying under Hazrat in the late 80s, he's been going for Hajj every single year, which is what, 35 years? and Allah Ta'ala grant him a long life, Allah Ta'ala grant him the tawfiq to do Hajj this year, because now it's all up in the air. So some people are very, very fortunate. But then, not everybody is that fortunate, but as a Muslim, each one of us, we have this desire, oh Allah, I want to visit your blessed house, especially for Hajj. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I mentioned this morning, that there are certain places where du'as are accepted. But then Allah has not deprived the rest of us, that unless you go there, your dua will not. No, Allah has, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us, there are numerous times where du'as are accepted. We should try, we should travel to Makkah Mukarramah, we should go to Multazam, and we should beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all our wishes and all our desires and fulfill all our needs, and whatever problems we have to remove them. But that doesn't mean we can only ask Allah when we get there. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, dua made after every first salah, it's never rejected. Similarly, people have this desire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He, through Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, has made certain a'mal, which Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has, there's certain a'mal, certain actions. When Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam or the tabi'een or the sahaba, they say, you do this and you will be rewarded as if you have performed the Hajj. And top of the list, you helping your Muslim brother who's in trouble. And this is something which, unfortunately, as the generations come, we have lost this ability to be worried and helping our neighbors especially. Hazrat Maulana Saeed Ahmad, a great Buzrug, he writes in one of his books that the friendship that the young generation have today, compared to the friendship that existed before, true friendship amongst our elders. He goes, there was a father, elderly gentleman, and his son, he used to spend all his time with his friends. And we have this. Almost every parent, the complaint is, my daughter or my son, they care more for their friends than they do for me. And this, I don't know about here, but in England we have a big problem, where the friends will go out and eat and everything, and if the parent, mother or father says, Beta, can you just take me down to the shop? Oh, come on, I'm just so tired. So make excuses. If the friend rings at the middle of the night, 2 o'clock, listen, I need to be dropped off this place, the guy will jump out of bed. And this happens. It's a reality. And similarly, this son, he thought his friends are the be-all and end-all. And he thought his friends love him and they can't do without him. And so the father, he's trying to explain to his son, hey, listen, beta, friends, they are friends today, any little disagreement, they'll be enemies for life. When you need them the most, they'll just put you on the limb. He goes, no, it was okay then. Go to them and say you want to borrow some money because you need it immediately. You need it. So he went, and it was very mamuli, 50 rupees or whatever at that time. It wasn't normal, but it was something which anybody could afford to give. He went to one friend, listen, something happened, I can't tell you about it, but I need money. He goes, oh, I'm really, really sorry, I don't have a penny. He knew he's got money inside, but he goes, no, sorry, I can't spare any money. He went to the next friend and the third friend and all the group of his friends he went to, every single one of them turned him down. So he said that now you've seen the reality of friendships, yeah? He goes, I'll show you what true friendship is. And then he waited, he goes, no, rest after Isha. He goes, go to sleep. Then he woke him up at 1 o'clock. Come on. He goes, at this time what? He goes, no, come on. I want to show you the reality of friendship, true friendship, which existed before, which nowadays is almost non-existent. So he took him through the dark streets of the village, and then he went to a house and he knocked. Inside, an old man, he had a bag full of coins and money, and then he handed it over to his friend, and he goes, please forgive me, please forgive me. I should have come to you and asked you whether you needed anything. I know you've come here, you wouldn't have come unless you needed money as an emergency. And then he took the money he went home and he said that he told his son, this is what you call true friendship. In those days, friends, they used to care about each other. They used to worry and they used to ask each other. And even if they did, through their own means and ways, asking the wives that go and talk to them and ask them whether they're all okay, they look like they're in parishani, because nobody likes to air their grievances and especially their problems, because we're scared. Even if you go to somebody and ask him for tenner, they'll say, the guy is messed up and he's done this, and we're scared of the gossip. So the first thing Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or from the list, the first thing is, as it says here, Jabul Khawatir wa Qada'u Hawaij nas Hajjun wa i'timarun bila tirham. That to fulfill the needs of your Muslim brother, that is, you will get the reward of performing Hajj without having to travel to Makkah Mukarramah and performing the rites there. And Hazrat Hassan Basri rahmatullahi alayhi, he says, Mashyuka fi hajati akhika al-Muslim khayrun laka min hajjatin ba'da hajjatin. You're walking towards fulfilling the need of your Muslim brother is more rewarding than performing Hajj after Hajj after Hajj. So this is great news for those who desire every year that, oh Allah, please give me. But then not everybody can go. Even if they have the money, even if they think, especially this year, very, very limited. And in England, until now, it still hasn't been clear how many people are going to be allowed. Yesterday there was a WhatsApp message, turns out it was a fake message. Because from then, the Saudi embassy, they said, we're still discussing what to do about the British. Other countries, India and Dadla, they've been given their quota and they've already fixed their Hajj. So even if you have the money, it's not necessary that you'll end up. But for us, for everybody, every time Hajj comes, our Hazrat, during the days of Hajj, he used to eat namaz, oh, the Hajjis will be in this place now, how lucky they are, oh, the Hajjis are all together saying labbaik, Allahumma labbaik. And he's just talking about them. He's showing how much desire he had, that he wished that he was there. And that's the sign of a true believer. When you see somebody go for Hajj, your heart aches. Oh, how lucky that is. We don't envy them. We might envy them, we're not jealous of them. We wish that, oh Allah, the same way you've given them tawfiq, if only I had been given the tawfiq. So one of the things is to help your brother in need. Then the next one is very, very important. Birrul walidain a'zamu hajjatin fahuma jannatud dunya wal akhirah. Bir just means obedience, helping, loving towards one's parents. That is better than any Hajj. And they are your paradise in the world as well as the hereafter. And then they mention a hadith that somebody, a youngster or a man, he came to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Anasin and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wassa rajulan bibirri ummihi wa qala lahu anta hajjun wa mu'tamirun wa mujahidun يعني إذا برها. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he advised a man that be good to your mother, because she is your Hajj, she is your jihad, she is your ibadat. Any ibadat that you do, If you are good to your mother, if you are loving to your mother, if you are obedient to your mother, if you are not disrespectful to your mother, then that is better than if you were to perform Hajj, if you were to do jihad, if you were to do umrah, any other ibadat. Better than that, and the best ibadat, I mentioned already the other day, the best ibadat is to show love, affection, generosity and obedience to one's parents, especially one's mother. And we've mentioned this, we've heard this. Anybody who goes to one's mother or one's father just glances at them with a loving glance. Every glance that he looks at them, Allah rewards him with one Hajj. So this is something which we all can do. Ask those who have lost their mothers and fathers, those who still have parents or one of them, don't neglect them. Alhamdulillah, we're a small community, but in our place, in England, the brothers will tell you, especially the boy, he gets married, he moves out. Initially he might come once a week, then once a month, and then sometimes months and months go by, and he thinks himself so busy. Oh, I want to go, but I can't. And usually, Allah forgive, usually it's the wife. What's the point, man? We'll go. Her own parents, she'll drag him weekly. And ask those parents, the biggest problem in Western countries is the loneliness that the elderly feel. Even if they have their own home, the loneliness that they feel. And they don't need to make any bad dua. They don't need to say anything against their children. Allah will automatically, Allah Ta'ala forgive us, Allah Ta'ala forgive these children. But Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, there is one sin, numerous sins, Allah, He'll let it pass. If He wants to punish them, He might punish them in the hereafter. But one sin guaranteed, Allah will punish in this world as well as the hereafter, is being neglectful of one's parents, being disrespectful of one's parents, giving pain to one's parents, and especially the youngsters. I warn you, the easiest way to enter into Jahannam is to argue, be disrespectful. But listen, parents are parents. Sometimes, and nowadays, parents have to be friends. The old time, where the father would just say a word and the whole house, the father would enter the house and everybody would be that scared. We don't have that anymore. Nowadays, if we want to keep our children under our guidance and keep them with us loving, you've got to become friends with them. You have to go to football matches with them. You've got to take them to football Saturday mornings in our place, and that. You've got to take them swimming, you've got to take them picnics, you've got to take them to things. And more than a father figure, especially when they reach the age of 14, 15, 16, we have to become friends with them. We can't be aloof. We can't think that I'm a father, I deserve respect. And then suddenly do this, do that, and then they get fed up. And then it leads to so much nuksan for him, for the father. Nowadays, to be a parent, you have to have wisdom. It's not necessary that you're knowledgeable and you're educated and you're an alim or a sheikh. But the little knowledge that you have, if you have wisdom with it, then inshallah, the challenges which our young generation are facing, it's unthinkable. Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was already prophesied. There is going to come a time, he told the Sahaba, there is going to come a time when the good will be deemed bad, when good will be deemed evil, and when evil will be deemed good. The Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, because even in the times of Jahala, They didn't have the evil which our youngsters are being faced with, which the whole of our societies throughout the world are being faced with. So the Sahaba, they just come out of kufr. They knew the manner of sins that people used to get up to. They used to bury the girls alive. They knew how evil humans can be. But when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but they knew he was evil. They knew what was good, they knew what was evil. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, a time is going to come when good will be deemed evil and evil will be deemed good. The Sahaba is surprised. Ya Rasulullah, such a time is going to come. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, I'll tell you something even more. Not only will they deem it good, evil will be ordered. People will order evil and they will stop people from committing good. In our madrasa, Bolton Darul Ulum, we had an inspection, after inspection. Now, these, Allah Ta'ala save the Muslims and destroy the perpetrators, the people who want to force this ideology on the rest of us. So now the question is, they talk to the children. They ask the children questions like, if your friend comes to you and he tells you, oh, I love another friend and he's attracted to me, etc. What are you going to advise him? And the teachers are allowed to be there. They take these 11, 12, 13-year-olds, they take them into rooms and then they question them. So we told them, we know they come, we told them, in this country, if you want to live, just say, listen, in this country, everybody is free to do what he wants. Don't say, oh, Islam says it's haram, this and that. And we are citizens of this country, meaning Britain, and everybody is free to do what he wants. That's it. After that, and then they question numerous students. So then, the inspector, he talks to our Muhtami, Maulana Saeed Ahmad. He takes him to the library. He goes, I've questioned numerous children and they've all given the answer and that's wrong. So he goes, what do you mean it's wrong? He goes, by this answer, it means that the LGBT, they have a choice. But they don't have a choice. They are born like that. He says you should teach them that in the same way, if somebody is paralyzed, somebody is disabled, somebody is of a different color, that's natural. If somebody is paralyzed, somebody is in a wheelchair, it's your job to help him in his illness. In the same way, don't regard this as an illness, regard it as natural inclinations and teach them to support, help and support. Exact words of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where evil will be ordered and the good, we all know hijab is good. Even the Hindus, they regard hijab as good. The Christians, they regard hijab and whatever covering their hair and everything as good. But now in India, they've started. No, the girls are not allowed to enter the universities, even with headscarves. It's complete turnaround. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the thawab of Hajj. One mention which is, inshallah I'll finish this quickly. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, whoever does wuzu from his house with the intention and leaves the house with the intention of coming to read for salah, for him is the reward of a full Hajj. A person who wears the ihram, he goes Hajjul Muhrim. A person will Hajjul Muhrim. The person who wears the ihram, performs the Hajj and everything. So I say this because a lot of times we just think, okay, I'll just go and do wuzu at the masjid. Fine. But we don't realize how much reward every time we do that, every namaz we come. And if we stay in the masjid from Asr till Isha, then we'll get one Hajj tawaf for Asr, one Hajj tawaf for Maghrib, and one Hajj tawaf for Isha. But keep this in and try to practice this. That whenever we go to namaz, obviously if you've gone out and you're going directly from work, that's different. But when we go, especially on the weekends and holidays and in the Fajr, we should always do wuzu at home and then go, so that we don't miss out on the reward of a complete Hajj. Allah Ta'ala gives tawfiq. He said, wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Try and make back.
Azan is 50.
It's still got 4 minutes.
I mean, I don't think it's the opportunity, but a brother has just reminded me, I have actually come here to make a collection for the biggest and the most beneficial organization in the world. This organization was started in 1919, 103 years ago, by our elders, Hazrat Shaykh al-Hind rahmatullahi alayhi, Hazrat Mufti Kifayatullah rahmatullahi alayhi, Hazrat Maulana Saeed Ahmad rahmatullahi alayhi. And the whole purpose at that time for establishing this organization was to fight the British. Joining the Hindus and the Sikhs and everybody together, they managed to throw out the British. After that, Jamiat, they changed their thing and it became a grouping or an organization to help the Muslims in whatever capacity. The Muslims that were imprisoned, from day one, Jamiat has fought for their release. Any calamity. From that time, they had numerous what we call riots, Muslims being killed. For example, in 1989, there was mass killing. Hundreds of Muslims were killed in a place called Bagalpur. Hazrat Maulana Saeed Ahmad, who was the president of this organization, he went there, and what they had done was they had buried the bodies in fields, and then they had planted the crops over them. When they went, they said, "Who? Show us the bodies." In the end, they bribed the Hindus, the people that knew where they were buried. And my friend Maulana Hakimuddin, he says, I was there. And then we were led to these bodies. And then we had to dig up the crops. And underneath the crops, these bodies were buried. But Alhamdulillah, after 3 months, they were as if they had been buried an hour ago. Because Allah Ta'ala says, Shaheed, he doesn't die. And we have numerous incidents where years later, 1,200 years later, when the Sahaba bodies they were forced to exhume them, they were exact the day they were buried. But then this is the type of work. When we had Gujarat riots, the Muslims were running away from Ahmedabad. Hazrat Maulana Saeed Ahmad, he forced the government, I'm going. And he visited all the burnt mosques and all the burnt houses. And he convinced the people that if you leave, you are, whatever their plans are, you are fulfilling their plans. He promised them, we will rebuild your masjids. He promised them, we will rebuild your shops. He promised them, we will rebuild your house. And I've been numerous times and I've seen the homes that Jamiat have rebuilt. One final thing, 2019. 2019, there were riots in Delhi. We heard about that. Muslims, 13 masjids were burnt. Hundreds of homes were burnt. All the market, shops of Muslims completely destroyed. And the whole purpose was to, and their plan is, Allah Ta'ala destroy them before their plans come to fruition. Their plan is, area by area, clear out Delhi of Muslims. Hazrat Maulana Mahmud Sahib told Hazrat Maulana Hakimuddin, that area tonight is going to be empty. They will move in, they will take over those homes. If you don't spend a night there, tomorrow morning we'll send help and we'll convince the people to go back. But if those homes and those masajid are left empty tonight, they will take over and we'll never get them back. Maulana Hakimuddin says, me, that our driver and 2 other ulama, we knew we could be killed. They were still roaming the streets. Maulana says, I went, and Alhamdulillah, I faced this numerous times, I went to sleep. My colleagues, they couldn't sleep, they were so scared. But Alhamdulillah, next morning, Hazrat Maulana Mahmud Sahib, he sent numerous people, and then they took to the masjids. And today, they built all the masjids, all the homes, and Maulana says, you go today, and you won't realize that a single home had been touched. That's just 3 years. In 3 years, they've completely rebuilt the whole area. And any earthquake in Kerala, there were floods in hours, the whole thing. Jamiyat went, all the homes, I went personally, and I've seen everything. Our job is to, in England, this is what I do throughout Ramadan. I'm an Imam, but I tell the committee that, listen, Alhamdulillah, Imams, you have numerous ulama, but my responsibility, they don't pay me, but as what I know of what health and the health Jamiyat gives, for that I travel the country up and down in Ramadan, standing up in masajid, giving i'lan in English and Urdu, and this I regard as my greatest, if Allah accepts this, then Alhamdulillah I have nothing to worry about. So this is why I have come here. I have left my imamate, I have left my teaching hadith for 2 weeks, and only reason is, more important than the money, is that as Muslims, we should be aware of not only the bad that's happening to the Muslims, but the good and the help that the Muslims are being given by organizations like Jamiyat Ulama and Hind. So please, more than anything else, make dua for Jamiyat that they can help the Muslims as much as they can.